back, everyone, to Clean Conscious Network. I am back having fun with my dear, sweet Aunt Barbara Franklin, who is also affectionately known as Nanny inside of our family. You will hear me try to call her Aunt Barbara, but I don't promise to keep to that. I don't know if my brain will allow me to do it. Nanny, thank you for coming back to talk to me.
Oh, you're more than welcome, dear.
Okay, so last time we spoke, you were telling me when and where you were born. Okay,
Yes.
so what's your birthday again, Nanny?
July 27th, 1940.
Okay, and when you were born in like the Creth community, which was by Old Hickory Creek, kind of
Yeah.
back over there, right?
I'm sure. I don't know. I never really asked Mama
Okay,
where I was born,
okay,
but it was somewhere within the Chattanooga community.
right. Okay,
Because across the creek where we grew up and across the creek where the church is, it was anywhere in between there.
right.
I could have been at Grandma Adeline's house.
Okay,
That was my mother's grandmother.
that's right.
I could have been there. I don't know.
Did you know her, Grandma Adeline?
I remember her.
Stop it.
She died in 1949.
I never heard anybody talk about her.
That was Big Mama's mother.
I know. I never heard anybody talk about her.
Well, we didn't interact with her
Yeah,
a lot
yeah.
as kids coming up.
Right. Well, wow, that's exciting for me. Okay, so you are born somewhere over there in the community, probably at home at somebody's home, right? Where either Daddy Rip and Mama Dutz, Carl Lester and Lucille Franklin's home, or perhaps at your maternal great grandmother's home, and her name is Adeline.
Adeline Stewart.
Adeline Stewart had your grandmother, Josephine Augusta Stewart Henderson, who has my grandmother, Katie Lucille, but that Katie Lucille is your mama. Right. My mama did.
Yeah.
And I'm named for her.
Yeah.
Okay, so you are born you're her eldest daughter.
Yes, I'm her first daughter.
Okay.
Firstborn daughter.
Okay. So let's talk about like the first 10 years of life. And look, I know you can't talk about that.
I can't go back up. I remember just certain points.
Right.
I can't get all the timeline.
Of course not. But just tell me kind of what you remember about your community, what you remember about your house. Let me ask you a really dumb question.
Well, the first house I remember was the house where we grew up in.
Okay.
That was over there in the Creth community across the creek.
Okay.
And my mother and father, and I guess I don't know when they built that house. I don't know if it was after I was born or before I was born.
Okay.
But I remember my mother saying they lived over behind my great grandfather's and great grandmother's house. It was a house back there by the walnut tree.
Okay.
And they stayed there.
Okay.
Because she would say that when my aunts and uncles, my daddy's siblings,
yes,
were growing up, they would get off of the school bus and run home, run in the house, put their books down, and run over there where they were living because Carl was the baby.
Yes.
And they were all crazy about Carl.
Yes.
And my Uncle Junior would be on tone walkers.
Okay.
Those are stilts. They call them tone walkers. And he could outrun Aunt Mittie and Aunt Ollie. and he would
I
get
have
there
never
first.
heard this. Okay, so
Whoever got there first got a chance to
got
get
to
the
hold the
baby
baby
face.
first.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so let me try to summarize what I just learned from you. Your great grandparents, who are Tom and Mary Eliza,
Right.
also known, Mary Eliza's known, is she
Yeah,
Yah?
yeah,
Okay, so Tom and Yah
yeah.
lived by the walnut tree.
No, in front of the walnut on the road,
They lived in front of the walnut tree on the road.
and over in the field where the walnut tree was a house, and that's where Mom and Dad lived.
Okay. So my grandparents, Carl Lester and Katie Lucille, Rip and Doot, lived by the walnut tree, which was back off the road behind Tom and Yah's house.
Mhm.
So when Aunt Mitty and Aunt Ollie
And June.
and Uncle Judy, who I always call him Reverend Wiley,
Right.
you know,
Right.
Reverend Doctor Oscar Wiley.
Senior.
Yeah, well, he's junior and senior, right?
Right.
I mean, because his daddy was Oscar, but like I can't wait to go down that Oscar rabbit hole one day. Okay, so they would hop off the bus to run to be able to be the first to hold my dear Uncle Carl, your
Right.
older brother.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
About how many years older than you is Uncle Carl?
He's 2 years and 10 months.
Okay, so he's there, and then comes another beautiful baby, Barbara Faye.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I don't know if they were still living there or they had moved. I don't know.
Okay.
But my remembrance, we were living where we grew up.
Okay.
In the house.
Okay. And so when you were born, what do you think your parents did for a living? Who watched y'all growing up? Like, describe kind of the community day-to-day interactions.
Well, when we were kids growing up, my mother didn't work.
Okay.
She was a housewife.
Okay.
So she took care of us.
Okay.
Daddy went out on a job.
Okay.
He worked at the sawmill.
Okay.
And several other places.
Okay.
Because he was an unskilled laborer.
I remember you telling me something about this. You said Daddy Rip worked at like the sawmill, the foundry. He drove a bus at one point.
Right.
But this man also
he was a part-time farm.
Yeah, well, part-time, but he fed the community. I mean, his little part-time work on that farm fed the family.
Well, he grew crops. He grew cotton.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. Never had very many acreage because, he didn't have no property of his own.
Right.
He was using his grandfather's property.
Okay. That is so interesting. But Daddy Rip is a jack of all trades. Is he a builder? He's working at all of these places.
He probably built our house. I helped to build it.
My goodness. Okay.
Probably did.
Okay. Nanny, there's something I never really understood. I mean, I think I'm understanding better now. But do you have any idea how Tom and Mary Eliza wound up with about 50 acres of land in Houston County?
I have no idea because I don't know what Tom did. Mary Eliza was a homemaker.
Right.
I'm sure she had her garden too.
Right.
Because she had about 9 or 10 kids.
Right.
And she had to feed them.
Right.
Plus, she always cooked a lot of food.
Right.
She always had enough food left over to feed another family.
You told me about this one of the last times that we were together, that her home was known for food. And sometimes she would cook so much food for Sunday and just kind of leave it at the house. Maybe she'd go to church and come back. Somebody would have been in the house, gotten themselves a plate of food, and left her some money on the table.
Sometimes they say that would happen.
Wow.
A stranger would come through the community, somebody walking, and they would It could have been somebody that knew her.
Okay. Okay. You also told me that some infamous United States criminals may have also enjoyed Mary Eliza's food at one
Right,
time. So
right.
tell me about that part.
That was Bonnie and Clyde.
Okay.
They camped in front of her house because across the road was government property.
Okay.
That was part of some forest.
Okay.
And they hid out in that forest.
Okay.
And they, in the dusk of the evening, they would go over there and get food.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Did they pay for their food?
I'm sure they did.
Okay.
They paid, gave my cousin, I don't know how he was related to us, but he was living with my grandmother at the time. And they gave him a $20 gold piece
Oh my gosh.
to go and draw him up some water.
Wow.
Mm.
That's a lot of money back then.
Oh, it was, but they had robbed banks.
They had plenty to
Mhm.
spare. I just think it's interesting that when they needed safe harbor and they needed food, they found our family.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Okay.
they did.
Do you
I
know,
don't know how long they stayed.
or if they left and came back a couple of times? I wonder. Maybe
I don't
not.
know
Okay.
because the police was hot on their trail.
Yeah.
And see, they was driving a little old T-model, I think.
Yeah.
And they had to go in the backwoods. They couldn't go down the road.
You're right.
Because the police was down
Right.
the road.
And I'm glad you mentioned that.
Mm-hmm.
All that I've ever known of our home community, whether it's Tadmo, across the creek, Crest area, all I've ever known of that area is red dirt roads. That's it. Most of those roads, when you drive off the highway, are not paved.
No, they aren't.
Even today.
Right. They are still gravel roads.
Huh.
Muddy when it's raining.
Well, people are paying taxes back there. I wonder, why they can't get those roads paved.
Well, my aunt asked that question when she went to court one time.
Yeah.
To see about getting the roads paved.
Yeah.
She said we pay taxes, and I has always been homeowners and taxpayers, but we can't get any paved roads or anything.
Yeah.
I've forgotten what the judge told her, but it was some off the wall, something like
yeah,
money's being spent for something else.
You're not important enough.
Right.
I mean, that's what it comes down.
Right,
You're not
right.
important enough.
And she went back 10 or 15 years later, and she gave what he told them. He told her the same story. She presented him with a copy of the letter she had written to him 10 or 15 years before.
Wow.
And the story was still the same.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Now, is this the aunt that received a commendation from the governor of Texas for her long working in the state? She worked over 50 years in Texas public school, educated.
Yeah.
Most of you and your siblings, for sure. I know she was swinging and banging that car around Tadmo with us little kids in the back, but this is a hard-working, tax-paying citizen of the community who couldn't get her any paper. And she's in her 90s now. Those roads are still red dirt. Okay, but that worked to Bonnie and Clyde's advantage back in the early 1900s.
Yeah, it did.
Yeah, they could turn off and duck into our little community.
And you know the thing about it, they could cover their tracks.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
When they went on one of these little offshoot roads.
Yeah.
We call them forest roads.
Okay. Okay. So interesting. Okay, so you
But
are born into this community where
right,
all those people are around. People are known to come through the community. I
right.
mean, I always thought of it as very obscure, and maybe it is technically. I mean, it like isn't even necessary. You're not gonna find Creth on the map.
That's
It's not.
true.
It's not on
That's
the
true.
map, but people know where y'all are and know how to find you.
Yeah,
Okay,
they
and
do.
so you are born into a family that maybe border passes through, that maybe occasionally harbored criminals, especially if they were paying right. Uh, Also, I heard that we may have had some family members involved in like bootlegging liquor during Prohibition. Do you know anything about that?
No, you have to ask my brother.
Well, I certainly will. I certainly will. This is on Mama Dud's side. Some of her uncles,
Well,
uh,
could have. I
yeah,
don't know. I
yeah,
don't know. She had, my grandmother had 4 or 5
wow,
boys.
yeah,
So it could have been some of those.
yeah. They were running moonshine all over Houston County. They were
Okay.
not broke. But we paid the price. We had some casualties
Yeah,
of alcoholism in our family back then. But that's how we made a way.
right,
It's not like
right.
we had a whole lot of options for economic empowerment
Oh,
at the
right,
time.
right. You did.
Right, right, right. Okay, Nanny, let's test this thing. Can you say something to me?
What is part 2 gonna be like?
Oh my gosh. Okay. I have so many questions. I could do this all day, all week, the rest of my life, really. Um, so you were born, my father always says he was surrounded by love in his community. And he's the baby. He comes, a couple of years after you, like way down the line.
Yeah,
After you, there's Aunt Marva, then Uncle Sonny, then my daddy, who would be the baby of
yeah,
the immediate family. So yeah, you got a lot of love. But you are born the eldest daughter. Your older brother Carl is around, and your aunts Mitty and Ollie and Uncle Oscar, are all right there.
yeah.
And so let's talk about your schooling. Now, I understand your parents, Mama Dud is at home, she's a
Mhm.
homemaker. And my understanding is that she stayed busy all day with work around the house. She did wash every day. She
She,
cooked every day, you know.
right,
She
right.
was a fierce homemaker
Yeah,
and kept that house tidy. And Daddy Rip went out to work wherever he was at the time. You said he was an unskilled laborer. My granddaddy had about a third grade education.
right.
In some kind of way, he learned enough agriculture to be able to feed his family.
Oh, true. Yeah.
He went to the army and served.
Mm-hmm.
He went as far as Seattle, Washington, I think. And
Yeah.
while he never
Right,
was engaged in combat, like in the actual war
right,
theater,
right.
he's, I think, what you call a military veteran. Like he was in the military and served for a time for his
And
country.
he went from place to place. He didn't just stay at one place.
Right,
They sent him here and there,
right,
and they would stay there. I guess they would be the next ones up
right,
if they had to go
right,
into combat
right.
because he went in at oh just before World War II was over. He
Okay,
stayed in there 3 years.
okay,
Uh-huh.
okay.
And I don't know when World War II was over with.
1945 would have been, I think.
Yeah, I think that's when he got out.
Okay.
45, 46.
So he served in World War II.
Yes.
Huh. So Daddy Rip is born in 1913. Let's just imagine that he is drafted into the
He was.
military in the early 40s. So he's around 27 years old.
He was old when he.
He's about 27 years. Yeah, that's old for the military. Most people kind of go in 16, 17, 18, early 20s. But he's 27 years old. How many children did he have, you think?
I think it was just 3 of us.
Okay.
Well, Marvel and Carl, myself, and Marvel.
Okay.
Sonny was born in 46.
So that's right after Daddy Rip is done with his military service.
Yeah.
The other thing I know about Daddy Rip, with his 3rd grade education, who was able to feed his family and his community, I just can't say that enough.
No.
I really can't. I can't say that enough. I really feel the need to give Carl Lester his flowers. This is not a man who had a ton of like awards and accolades. I don't think anybody ever had a banquet for Daddy Rip. You know what I mean? But like, he's a great man. He produced a lot of good things.
He waited for those birthday parties.
Oh, he loved to party. He loved to party. And he loved to travel. I remember our family vacations. I hadn't talked about the family vacation. He loved to travel. He was ready to go. Mama did not so much. She could take it or leave it. She could take it or leave it. She was fine in Tadmo. But Daddy Rip wanted to go. And so when we would take family trips, when I was growing up, we went to Florida. We went to Minnesota.
That's where he had fun.
He had a great time at Disney World. We all did. Okay, so like that's Daddy Rip. Daddy Rip is also descended from military veterans. Now I don't know if his father Eddie served, but his uncles Ned and Dave, I believe, were World War I veterans.
Okay,
I believe.
I don't know. I've never heard no one say.
Okay. What else do you know about those Franklin men? Anything about them at all?
Nothing at all.
Okay. I heard that one of them passed tragically. Did you hear anything about that growing up?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, fine. So back to you. Let's talk about your education. Now, I just said in the last segment, Aunt Mitty and maybe Aunt Ollie. I know Aunt Ollie worked in Houston a lot of her early teaching career. And there's a lot more to be said about Aunt Ollie. And I'm going to have her daughter and her grandson on to talk more. But she's so humble. She will not talk about herself. But there's a lot to talk about there. But Aunt Mitty was a longtime teacher in the Tadmo community. And she was your teacher, probably. I don't know if she was Uncle Carl's teacher, but did she actually teach you, or am I wrong? Was she too young to teach you? She did. Huh.
My Aunt Mitty started teaching when she was about 20.
Talk about her. Like, how did she get to teach when she's 20?
I guess she was a good student. She finished high school. She went to Texas College for 2 years.
A CME, historically black college in Tyler, Texas, Christian Methodist Episcopal Church, which is our church.
Right.
Okay. So she went to Texas College, and this would have been maybe, I don't know, early 1940s.
Right.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. And at that time, you could get a teaching certificate in 2 years.
Okay.
So she got a teaching certificate.
Okay.
And in the summer, she would go to Prairie View.
Wow.
And work on her bachelor.
Okay, so
and she did that until she got up.
She went to Prairie View. Just saying.
Yeah,
she went. So Prairie View also gave her opportunities for higher learning. This is a woman who comes from a community that didn't have a lot of money, but that certainly had a lot of self-determination and love and support. And gosh, Nanny, the other thing that really strikes me about our family, these days you hear a lot about like women's rights and feminism and all of these things. Now, my granddaddy, her older brother, had a 3rd grade education. He sent money home to make sure his sisters went to college. His baby sisters. And his daughters. His daughters went to college.
It was me. He had to go. Because I think he was out I don't know what year Ollie Mae went, but anyway, it was Mitty. He had to go to school. Ain't Mitty.
Wow. That's
Mhm.
incredible. She says it. She says he paid the bill, that she would be worried that the bill wouldn't get paid and she'd have to go home, that they would call her name and tell her to go home, but that never happened because Daddy Rip sent his money, you know. And he was raised right. Mama Etta made sure he
That was
did.
his mama.
And
That
Mama
was
did,
his all.
and Mama did too. You know, I'm sure were very supportive. You know, of their education.
Yeah.
I think that's pretty wonderful. So she is your teacher, and she's young, but she is a teacher for the community. And talk to me about y'all's school. Like, you know, how did you get to school? Where was it? Was it an integrated school or a
Well,
segregated school?
when I first started to school, that was my entire schooling was segregated.
Your whole school.
My whole school.
So you enter school around what year and graduate high school around what year?
I guess around 1946. I guess. I'm not sure.
46 is when you.
I was 6 years old.
Okay.
In 46.
Okay.
I don't know if I know. When I first started to school, I remember I was in the pre-primer. That's what they called it.
That's like pre-K,
I
pre-primer.
guess it was since I.
Yeah.
But I was in the pre-primer.
Okay.
And then the next thing, I was in first grade.
Okay. Okay.
So I went to school in the community called Germany.
Okay.
And we rode the school bus. Uncle Andy and Ned's grandfather was the bus driver.
Okay.
Well, you know Annie Earl and
Yeah, yeah.
That was their grandfather too.
Okay.
And we would ride. He would drive us to Germany every day. He'd pick up students on the way. We were the first pickups and the last drop off. So we walked from his house to our house, which was right on the road.
Oh, Uncle Andy stayed right in the community too.
Yeah, where we were, it was our house, grandmother's house, Aunt Stella's house, Tom's house, and Deborah's house.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And
so all you had to do was walk next door to your cousin's house to get on the bus.
Well, it wasn't that next door.
You're right. Okay, so admittedly, I grew up in the suburbs of Houston, so next door is truly right there.
No.
But for you, next door,
wasn't next
it's
door.
like, is it a mile away or half a mile away? Like,
no, well, if we cut across the field, it might have been 3 or 4 blocks.
Okay, okay. So but down the way.
Yeah.
Down the way.
If we went around the road, it was a little further.
Okay. So you get to school there and you're going into a segregated school. And I imagine that you're doing well, Nanny. You went all the way through, college at Prairie View and ultimately become a librarian, I know. So talk to me about what you remember about your schoolhouse. Like, who is there? What is it one room for all the different grades? How many people are in the school? Like, tell me about what you remember.
I remember my teacher. I remember 2 teachers I had. One was a Miss Skerlock, and I think she was kin to Barbara Mitchell.
Had to be. And Barbara Skerlock Mitchell is my godmother.
And the other one was Miss Sally.
Okay.
She was Strong. Sally K. Allen Strong.
Okay.
But we call her Miss Sally.
Okay.
And Miss Helen Jackson.
Okay.
She taught the upper grades.
Okay.
Now that's his fault. and it was a Miss Burns there also.
Really?
Uh-huh. Yeah.
I know some Burns from Grapeland.
Well, they were from there. And her husband was the principal,
Wow.
and she was one of the teachers. Seemed like she was my second grade teacher.
Okay. Those
I-
Burns are related to us by marriage. We love the Burns over here.
See, Christy,
Mm-hmm.
she probably was her great aunt.
Okay.
Well, it was probably her husband who was Christy's great uncle.
Okay.
I'm just saying that. I don't know.
So for context, Christy is my, for all intents and purposes, college roommate, cousin by marriage, one of my very best and dearest friends of my entire life. But I met her at Prairie View.
Right.
I didn't know her, before Prairie View.
Right.
And so her family knew our family way back in the early 40s.
Right.
There was a connection there.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Okay. Sweet.
That's true.
Well,
so I can't remember if Miss Helen ever taught me or not. But Miss Sally, Miss Skerlock, and Miss Burns, I don't know, seemed like they did.
okay.
And I went there through the third grade, and I left. They closed the school down.
Why?
It wasn't that many students, so they were gone. Everybody was going to Crockett.
Do you remember the name of that first school in Germany that Uncle Andy would take you to? What was the name of just a little school?
Glover Colored High School. Glover Colored School.
Okay. Glover Colored School in Germany.
In the Germany community.
Okay. And so when that one closed, where did you go to school?
We were supposed to been going to Crockett.
Okay.
But it was only at this time my cousins, Uncle David had moved. They
to Houston.
Had moved to Lufkin.
Or Lufkin, okay.
Then they left and went to Houston later.
Okay.
But George Edward was a cousin of ours too, and it was just my family, and it wasn't anybody but Carl and myself, and Marva was gonna be in the first grade, so we went to Kennard. They wouldn't send a bus for us, the three of us.
Okay.
So we had to go to Kennard.
Okay.
And I don't know who was driving the bus right then, but Aunt Mitty was teaching in Kennard. We probably weren't ready to catch the bus, so she was our backup.
That's only funny to me because I know what it's like to be a kid in Aunt Mitty's car. She used to drive fast I mean, Dukes of Hazzard, flying over the hill. Legendary driver. Then I grew up in a time where, we were probably supposed to wear seatbelts, but we did not.
They didn't.
In the 80s. I know, where were the seatbelts?
They didn't even have them in the car.
So
I don't. They hadn't been around too long.
I'm
and
sorry.
Had no seatbelts.
Okay, so I'm imagining y'all little chaps getting in with Aunt Mitty going to school in Kennard. Do you remember, rolling to school with her regularly?
Every morning.
Every morning. Now, did she take you to school all the way until you graduated high school? Really?
Yeah.
How special?
Because she wasn't ever sick.
Wow.
Seemed like she She was sick when we were sick. We got chicken pox or mumps or something. She had chicken pox or mumps or something.
Whatever was going around.
Mhm.
Okay.
She had it when we had it.
Right.
We all got up together and went back to school together.
I imagine being at school is
And-
like the best inoculation on the planet because
and-
you get all the things at
Yeah.
school when you're a teacher.
Yeah.
That's probably why teachers live so long.
But anyway, we rode to school with her.
Okay.
Candy was driving the school bus at this point in time, and sometimes Sonny would get up early enough and catch the bus.
Wow.
Hmm.
Okay.
Sometimes Runt would get up early and catch the bus, but me and Marva mostly rode with her.
I mean, well, if you could ride in a luxury vehicle with Aunt Mittie May, I don't know, why you would, unless you're, a handsome young man and you wanted to,
Yeah.
chat with the
With the
girls
girls.
on the bus on the way to school,
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so you go from the Glover Colored School, which is segregated, to a school in Kennard. What do you think the name of this school is?
Kennard Colored High School.
Kennard Colored High School. I think this is where my father graduated high
It
school. Kennard Colored High School.
Mhm.
Okay, so about how many students, if you had to guess, how many students do you believe were in that school at any given time? Was it all grades or like what?
All grades. It was first grade through 12. Now, when I went to Kennard, and I'm sure it was the same way in Germany, there were 2 classes to a classroom. 1 teacher, 2 classes.
Okay, so like first and second, then
Yeah.
third and fourth,
Miss-
then fifth and sixth. Okay,
Miss Jolly taught first and second grade.
okay.
You remember Jolly?
I remember that name.
Well, that was her son.
Okay,
And he and Runt was in the grade together.
okay,
And so Miss Jolly taught first and second grade. Miss Lamb, Billy Lamb,
okay,
taught third and fourth grade.
okay,
Mittie taught fifth and sixth grade. Miss Scott taught seventh and eighth grade. And the ninth grade teachers, I can't recall nobody but Professor Henry.
I was gonna say, when did Professor Henry show up? I was waiting for the
And-
name to get called.
Miss Smith.
Okay,
Now, I don't know if there was, I don't think there was another.
okay, makes
Uh,
sense. So you had that one male teacher, Professor Henry.
mhm.
Before him, there was another male teacher in the community named Oscar Wiley.
Oh,
uh,
that was early.
Right, a while back. Were there any other male teachers that you know of in the community? Okay, okay,
And see, he was there in the Tadma community. Tadma had a school. He taught there.
that's Oscar Wiley. He taught right in the Tadma community, which is where he met my great grandmother, and they eventually got married and had a family together.
Right.
But I guess I'm making the point that there weren't a lot of male educators, particularly in the Black community,
Right.
where you were. Professor Henry, and what was that man, Henry? What was his first name? I forget.
Oh,
Professor Henry. What was his
his
name?
first name was Henry Evelyn Smith,
Okay, okay.
and he signed it Henry E. Smith.
Okay, so is he from the Tadmore community? He kind of grew up in the
Yeah,
area, right?
he did.
Okay, so he left and brought his education back and poured it into y'all, and you all went on to do great things, and with your own families. I wanted to make that larger point that lots of the educators who were in the Tadmore community were from the Tadmore community.
Mhm.
They brought the education to the children who were able to grow up and do even more, than that first generation was able to achieve. Okay, so you graduate high school from Kennard
Kennard
Colored
Colored
High
High
School.
School
Okay.
in
What did
1954.
you do for fun in high school? Like, I might have seen a picture of you on a basketball team. I don't know.
I
Like, I
guess
don't know.
that's about all I
Where,
did.
yeah, okay.
Was play basketball. Wasn't
Okay.
anything else to do.
Okay.
Now, Annie Earls and Jeanette's daddy
Hmm.
had a little old cafe.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah, and we would go down there on Saturday evening
Yeah.
sometime. And
Yeah.
Mama would let us.
That's
Uh-huh.
lovely. That is
That was
lovely.
the social outlet,
Okay.
going to James Earl.
Okay.
Mhm.
All right. Well,
And then Mr. Ben Parks had one across the street from James Earl.
yeah.
So we would visit both of them.
Wow.
Mhm.
That is so sweet. I mean, I love that.
They played records and you could
Yeah,
dance.
you had community. And I mean, it
Mhm.
was actually family.
Yeah.
You weren't going into a stranger's like cafe,
Yes,
you were going
no.
to hang out with family at their
And
cafe.
friends.
Family and friends.
Yeah.
That's really beautiful.
Mhm.
Okay. So I know you're about sick of talking to me now. We're done. We're gonna wrap this up. So you graduate from high school, and then what happens to you?
Well, I went to college. I didn't know anything about college or anything. There were no counselors or anything or anybody to direct your path or kind of help you
Right.
decide on whether you needed to go to college or go to a
Trade
trade
school or
school
something,
or
right?
something like
You, I
that.
mean, you just the natural next thing was go to college, so you
Right.
just went to college.
Right. I didn't know what to major in. I just went on there.
I think a lot of students today find themselves in that exact same position. They don't know what to do. They just show up at college.
I just kind of struggled through.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, but you did,
And
though.
then
That's awesome.
Aunt Mitty finally had told me, she said, well, Bobby, why don't you try library science?
Okay.
So anyway, I tried library science. I did pretty good.
Yeah, you
I
did.
liked it. It was something different because all of my elementary senior days, I had never gone into a library.
You know that never occurred to me. Daddy said that there wasn't like a gym for PE and basketball goals and inside and all. They practiced on the dirt,
Right.
right?
We played on the dirt.
It never dawned on me that you didn't have access to a library.
I didn't.
Oh my
Now,
God.
there was a bookshelf over there that had books.
You had a
on
bookshelf. Yeah.
it, that had books on it.
That
But I
never
don't know
occurred
if they
to
were
me.
any categorical order or not. They was just, we pulled one out, look at it, and maybe read what it said, the excerpts,
Wow.
look at the pictures and put it back on the shelf.
Wow. So you become a wizard of the Dewey Decimal System order,
Right.
and library science at Prairie View. And then, how many years did you work as a librarian? Because, did you go straight to Houston to work when you were done with PV, or like?
Yeah, when I graduated, I was already living in Houston
Mm-hmm.
because I would commute. I left, I don't know what year it was, but I would go back every semester,
Mhm.
take a class.
Okay.
And when I graduated, I was already living in Houston. So, and I was already working. So I put in applications at the district, HISD, and I put them in Fort Bend County and Pearland. I don't know what kind, Missouri, I think.
I'll say I heard back in the day it was hard for black teachers to get hired. Even when they had master's degrees, sometimes they couldn't get hired.
So I was working for a friend of the lady I was staying with.
Uh-huh.
She had a liquor store. So I worked at her liquor store. And when I graduated and got a job, I got it at the public library.
Wow.
Hmm.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So
We're in a Houston Public Library right now.
this is county.
Oh, okay. Okay. Like Harris County Public Library is where we are.
Yeah.
But you worked for Houston Public Library initially.
That's in the city.
Okay.
City.
Okay. Yes.
And this is county.
Okay.
And I worked in the circulation department.
Okay.
And I worked there 2 or 3 years. And I had put in an application in HISD. And the lady called me to come in for an interview. She said that they were hiring librarians. So anyway, I got my first job as a public school librarian. I done forgot, I think it was 73.
Wow.
I think that's when it was.
Okay.
And my first school was Roberts Elementary and Mitchell Elementary.
Wow.
I had 2 schools.
Wow.
So I stayed there for several years. And I left there. I got a transfer. And I went to McReynolds Middle School.
Okay.
I stayed there a long time. And the enrollment began to shift and drop.
Right.
And when I went to McReynolds, it was already a librarian there.
Mm-hmm.
So I was the AV librarian.
Okay.
I took care of the AV equipment.
Okay.
And I worked with the books when a class would come in.
Yeah.
And when the enrollment dropped, then I had to leave because I was the last one there.
Okay.
And I went to elementary school. It was a full time, 5 days a week. Landtrip Elementary. And I didn't particularly like elementary kids.
Listen, there's a special place in heaven for anybody engaged in elementary education. It's not for everybody. It's definitely not for me. It's not for me, but I love the children.
Well, yeah,
you were great with us. You handled us well when we were little. But it's a lot. It's a lot of children.
Right. And they did, and when I made it to, I did okay at Robertson and Mitchell. The kids weren't as hyper.
Oh, yeah.
This was like after 10 or 12 years of being with the middle school.
Yeah. And
go back to elementary. Those kids were hyper.
It's like asking a parent of teenage kids to start over with a baby. Mm-hmm. It's more than just a notion. And most of us would not necessarily sign up for that.
But I stayed there for quite a while.
Yeah.
And then an opening came up at Ryan Middle School.
Okay.
And I went to Ryan.
Okay.
And it wasn't much better. But I didn't have a class every period.
Okay.
And Ryan, I worked with subject matter.
Yes.
and they would come in as a class.
Okay.
And we would do our research and whatever they needed to know
Yeah.
at that time.
Yeah.
I might teach them a skill and how to use the dictionary
Okay.
and the different types of dictionaries that we had there.
Yeah.
It could have been a reference class, how to use to do research, how to use your different reference
Yeah.
book, and how to locate the information that you need.
Okay.
Or it could have been on how to use card catalog.
So,
But anyway, that was different from having an elementary class come in every 30 minutes.
Mhm.
You know, a
Yeah.
different class.
yeah.
Even though you taught the skills and how to use how to use the card catalog, how to use the encyclopedias and all of that stuff. But
These kids today haven't even seen it. They don't. Rain and Riley wouldn't know an encyclopedia if it was right here.
I know.
They wouldn't even
I
know
know,
Britannica and all the they have
Right.
no idea.
right?
It's a whole new world. But you did your thing, and all the way from Tadmo, all the way from Creth.
Yeah.
You know, shuffling the card catalog and going, book circulation is very, very different
Right.
from field work,
Oh,
from
it is.
it's
I
just
felt
different.
like I was in heaven.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, it was different.
it was.
Yeah.
It was quite different.
Well, I always grew up with the love of reading, and I'm sure that you had a lot to do with that, or at least the family that I'm from. Always encouraged me to read and study and do my best, and go as far as I could go.
Well, most kids don't realize the more you read, you might not go any place, but you will build up a vocabulary for writing.
Right,
Mhm.
right.
Right. So the more you read, the more you know, and the better you can write.
Yes.
Uh,
Yeah. Well, and the better you perform, right?
Right.
I mean, all these tests are, even if you want to be a scientist, you have to know how to read.
Right.
And you have to be able to interpret data well.
Uh,
It all starts with the reading.
Right.
Even if you want to be a mathematician, you got to know how to read and
Right,
understand the
right,
math. So
right.
I love it.
So it was a challenge, but I did enjoy.
You did it, Nanny. You did it.
So
That's awesome.
I did 34 years in HISD.
Okay. Now, last point, you are a mother and a grandmother and maybe even a great grandmother. We'll close with that. How many children, grandchildren,
I have one son, Brian, and I have two biological granddaughters.
Mhm.
Jana is the youngest, and Brianna is the oldest.
Yeah.
Brianna lived in Crockett. She graduated from high school. She went to Texas A&M University. She was an excellent student.
She really was.
She was a self-motivated young lady.
100%.
She worked her way through college
Yeah.
in 4 years, and I was just so proud of her.
And she traveled the world. She
Yeah.
has 2 master's degrees now.
Yeah.
An MBA and I think one in hospital administration. She's incredible.
Yeah.
All that from Tom and
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
long ago.
Yeah.
And Jana's at PV right now.
Right. Jane is at Fergie.
She's our 4th generation PV student.
Yeah.
I'm so proud of
Yeah.
that child.
Jane is
That
at-
young woman.
Jane is at Fergie.
Okay.
She want to be a veterinarian.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
And she shall be.
Yeah.
If I have anything to do with it, and the rest of us,
Yeah.
that's the thing.
Yeah.
We got to keep pushing these kids to go farther.
That's true.
So,
That's true.
well, Nanny, thank you so much for tolerating me and my questions. One of these days, I'm going to come back and ask you more.
Well, sometimes when you're up in Tadmore You need to talk to Eva Jean.
You're right.
That's our cousin.
Yeah.
She's Daddy's first cousin.
Yeah.
So they shared the same grandpa and the same grandma.
Oh gosh.
Yeah, and Tom.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely will have to get with
you
her.
You have to pull it out of her, but
oh my gosh, getting info out of y'all is hard. I just have to keep asking y'all questions. Y'all don't talk. Y'all are humble people. Y'all don't talk. But it's all right. I'm gonna keep asking my questions, and we'll see where we go.
She can tell you a little more about Tom and yeah than I could because she was with them a lot.
Well, I still have to talk to you about Grandma Adeline. I have to talk to you more about Big Mama. I have to talk to you more about segregated schools and segregation. And when you first encountered racism, I have to talk to you about just all kinds of stuff, Nanny. Yeah. We'll do it. We'll do it some more. Okay. I love you. Thank you.
You too.